Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out AmItheA Whole. Story 1. Ida for threatening eviction to my girlfriend's father. I recently inherited an apartment complex from a deceased family member. In one of the two buildings, small world, is my girlfriend's father. In his apartment is a severe hoarding condition. I noticed this when I went door to door to meet with each tenant to inform them of new ownership/management. I knocked on the door, and the door can only open halfway. The stench is terrible, of cat pee *SS and etc., clothes and garbage from floor to ceiling, and the only organized room was the bedroom. I was shocked. I told him that I am giving him 30 days to clean or he will be evicted. He said, well, I'm your girlfriend's dad, you can't do that to me. I won't have anywhere to live. He has 6 cats. No idea how they are even alive. There's black mold in the closet and I spotted about 6 cockroaches. I told him that I will order a dumpster for next weekend. If compliance is not met, I will have him legally evicted as he poses a huge hazardous threat to everyone in the building. My GF is begging me to let him stay, but I am not wasting time and any more funds on him, or giving any special treatment. I also told him that if he is able to stay after the 30 days, I am giving him 30 days to get rid of the cats, as I will not be allowing them on my properties. This has created so much tension between me and him and my GF and I because she wants him to live the way he has been. Ida. Story 2. Ida for not paying my dad he thinks I owe. 29F, and my fian, 34M, bought 40 acres a couple years ago together. The property has a 4BED2BATH house on it. A little bit of background, I moved back in with my parents, 45F and 49M, and had lived with them after an abusive relationship. I had been paying them 1/4 of all things, their mortgage, utilities, power, food, etc., as a rent for living with them. During COVID times, I had to move out because I work in healthcare and was on the front lines. During that move out, I still paid them my part and my brother's part because he had recently lost a job due to a medical issue. I was helping them out because my dad was struggling with money. I paid them for 9 months while not living with them and while I paid for other living arrangements. Cue to me falling in love with my fian and falling in love with a beautiful piece of property. I spoke with my parents who dreamed of country living and offered a plan. If they love the property too, then they could come live in the main house on my property, pay half the mortgage, and I will help them build their dream home. My fian and I bought a trailer to live in as an in-between. Basically, we all agreed that we would jointly share the property and wanted to live close to have more family time and support, as my mom is medically fragile and needs extra medical help. We were living the dream. My fiancé and I used our first-time home buyer credit names are the only names on the mortgage. My parents gifted me part of the down payment and decided to sell their home to come be on the property. I'm not sure what they did with the money they got from selling their home. This month, my mom called me to tell me they are moving at some point. They have no date and no idea where they're going, but this isn't working out. She explained to me this life isn't what she thought. My dad is now asking for his gift of money back, stating that he deserves a return of his investment. I am hurt because we had all agreed living close on the same property is what we wanted. I have not done anything egregious to make them feel unwelcome and they are the one breaking contract. I now have to figure out how to pay double for living and wouldn't have made some financial decisions I made if I had known they were just going to move after being here for 2 years. I politely told my dad that I do not feel it's fair to ask me for that money back, especially when it wasn't given conditionally. I also explained I barely have that amount in my emergency fund, which I'm not going to give to him. He says I'm fighting over money and being a disrespectful bully for not giving him the money he thinks he is owed. Am I the asshole? Edit. For clarification, my fiancé and I can afford the property and could have bought it on our own. My parents' decision doesn't cripple us financially, but it definitely puts my lifestyle different than planned and I lose my community of having family. Story 3. Ida for refusing to lend my car to my sister for her job interview. Okay, here's the situation. I, 27F, have always had a rocky relationship with my younger sister, 24F. We've had our fair share of disagreements and clashes over the years. Recently, my sister landed a job interview at a prestigious company that could potentially be a game changer for her career. The issue arose when she realized she didn't have a car of her own to get to the interview location. She came to me, asking if she could borrow my car for the day. Now, normally, lending a car to someone in need would be a no-brainer, but here's why I said no. Firstly, my sister has a history of being careless and irresponsible with other people's belongings. Numerous incidents have occurred in the past where she's damaged or lost things that were entrusted to her care. I simply couldn't risk having my car damaged or involved in an accident due to her negligence. Secondly, my sister has a habit of not returning borrowed items in a timely manner. There have been instances where she conveniently forgets to return things for weeks or even months, causing frustration and tension between us. Given her track record, I couldn't trust that my car would be returned promptly, which could inconvenience me if I needed it. Lastly, I believe in personal responsibility and accountability. My sister has relied on others to bail her out of situations throughout her life. By refusing to lend her my car, I wanted to encourage her to find alternative solutions and take responsibility for her own transportation needs. Now, my sister and some family members are upset with me, calling me selfish and unsupportive. They believe that I should have put our differences aside and helped her out in a time of need. But I can't help but think about the potential risks and inconveniences I would face if something went wrong. So, am I the asshole for refusing to lend my car to my sister for her job interview? Story 4. Ida for yelling at my brother's pregnant girlfriend and kicking them both out of my house after she threw away my food. I, 27M, live alone. My brother, 21M, and his girlfriend, 19F, still live with our parents as they can't afford a place of their own. His GF is currently pregnant with him in 4 months. My brother asked to bring his girlfriend for dinner in order to catch up and I said sure, why not? However, the moment she entered my house she started complaining about the smell of the steak I was making and said just the smell alone makes her nauseous and she can't eat this. I tried to suggest an alternative, but she was dead set on Chinese food and ended up sending my brother to the nearest mall in order to get her some. I thought that would be the end of it, but after going to the bathroom and coming back, I caught her throwing my unfinished steak into the garbage. I asked her what the hell she was doing and said the smell was so strong she thought she'd end up throwing up on the floor and she needed to get rid of it and then started spraying a perfume from her purse in my kitchen. I was beyond furious at this point and sent her back to the living room and after my brother came back from the mall, I kicked both of them out with their Chinese food. My brother tried to convince me to let them back and that I could make something else for the two of us and his GF was pretty much sobbing at this point, but I was dead set on kicking them both out. However, my parents ended up being mad at me for apparently causing so much distress to my brother's pregnant GF. I told them that she literally threw away our dinner, but they said that I shouldn't have yelled at her or kicked them out as she's still just a teenager who's now getting influenced by her pregnancy hormones and that my outburst also caused problems in their relationship as she ended up sending my brother to sleep on the couch that night, even though he literally defended her as well against me, so I have no clue how this is my fault. Ida for apparently not having enough tact to deal with a pregnant teenager. Edit, spelling. Story 5. Ida for refusing to cancel my vacation to attend my sister's graduation. I, 22F, am a senior in college and have been planning a summer trip to Europe with my friends for about a year now. We've all worked hard to save up enough money to go, and we're due to leave in about a week. We've each invested $3,000 plus into this trip, and the trip is supposed to last 2 weeks. My sister Grace, fake name, is currently in 8th grade. Her middle school graduation was supposed to be in a few days, but because of scheduling errors with the high school football stadium, it was recently pushed to a week after I'm due to leave for Europe. Thus, I wouldn't be able to attend. This really saddened me because I want to be there for my sister's milestones, but I've already invested a lot of money into this trip and it's too late to back out because we're already past the refund deadline for most of the expenses. Additionally, I've been looking forward to this trip for so long and it's the last chance I'll have to spend time with my friends before we all go our separate ways for post-grad jobs. I explained this situation to my parents and Grace and I thought they'd understand, but they're all furious at me and want me to cancel my trip. My parents are accusing me of prioritizing my friends over my family and not caring about my sister. They keep saying that if I go to Europe, I'll traumatize Grace because her big sister won't be there for her big day. My dad even said that I can always go to Europe later, but my sister will only graduate middle school once. Grace cried over the phone to me and said I obviously don't love her. I felt absolutely terrible and I kept apologizing over and over, but they wouldn't hear any of it. I promised to treat Grace to a celebratory dinner when I got back, but they wouldn't accept that as a compromise. Am I in the wrong here? I don't want to cancel because $3,000 is not a small amount of money for me. If this was Grace's high school or college graduation I might reconsider, but there will be other graduations besides middle school. I'd also reconsider canceling if I got the date wrong, but the date was switched and I couldn't have foreseen it. But I'd still like to know if I'm the asshole. Edit for context, I mentioned this in a comment, but my parents both immigrated from a pretty poor country and both of them had to drop out before 8th grade. So it means a lot to them to see their kids graduate middle school, but I still don't want to throw away $3,000. Story 6. Ida for banning the neighbor's kids from my front garden. I, 28F, moved into my house 3 years ago. Just before I moved, my neighbors had their kids removed by social services so they never saw my family or met us. About 6 months ago they were allowed contact and now they have their kids on the weekend. Their kids leave rubbish all over the garden, which blows into mine and doesn't get picked up. Their toys are all broken up or bits are missing. I don't think their kids are bad kids, they are just understandably dysfunctional due to their upbringing. This is where the issue occurs. We share a path between our two front gardens. My garden is fairly flat, nicely kept, has flowers. The kids are currently growing strawberries and tomatoes. It's not perfect but it's well loved and looked after. I put some of my kids' toys out the front a few weeks ago so they could play outside while I did the garden. That day we had to nip out and upon returning I found all their toys had been moved and the only people it would have been is the neighbor's kids. My flowers had also been picked too, that really upset me. I moved all the toys back into the back garden which is fenced off because that seemed the most simple solution at the time. I thought it would be a one-off and that's it. I make sure my kids stay off their front garden, at all times. I assumed that it was a kind of given being that it isn't their garden to be in. Today I've opened the front door to find one of the ride-on toys right outside of it. I had to push the toy out of the way just to step out of the door, and then I stood on a load of those things you throw on the floor that make a bang sound, all lined up outside of my front door. The kid had lined them up outside of my front door on purpose. The neighbor already feeds all the local cats who ruins my plants and poop everywhere and this has entirely rubbed me up the wrong way now, so I have asked the other half to go and have a word and tell them under no circumstance are they or their children welcome to go into my garden. My partner thinks I'm an awe because they are only kids doing kid things. I think as they are only kids their parents should be ensuring they don't behave like this, and putting right anything that does happen, but he's still making me feel like maybe I'm just being a miserable cow. So Reddit, Ida for banning the neighbor's kids from my front garden? That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.